Hey, what is going on, people? So I'm going to be doing my Sunday market breakdown. I've already narrowed down the pairs that I'm going to be looking at for this week, so I'm just going to go through them and then I'm going to add them onto my Notion with some notes as well. So we're just going to go through the pairs I've got here now. As we can see, there is quite a few. I've got 6 on 6. All forex pairs. Didn't opt in for any commodities or any indices. No particular reason. Just thought, you know, there's more than enough here. Didn't really want to dabble with anything else. It is what it is. Although there is some really nice pairs shaping up on the commodity. So looking at the DXY on the higher time frame, what we can see is that we have had that significant push away, a very aggressive, nice close, and then followed by a very good bullish close as well. Again, now it could be very, very probable that we could get another very big impulsive wave following, but this is still in some sort of corrective price action. So what I'm currently looking at over here is this sort of squeeze, and then now we're pushing up further. However, I'll just remove these lines for a little bit more simplicity and we can kind of just see what we're working with. So at the moment we can see that price is still kind of just hovering around this area. There's a few possibilities, but with this trend line in place, you know, we could just kind of scoop, tap into this, and still come off. Although what I'm currently looking at is that is it possible for price to, you know, just kind of correctively squeeze here, come back low, and then we go up for one big move? And does that become the gameplay? So that's one variation of what I think is possible with the DXY. However, it's very, very possible that the DXY can just kind of come up here and then just make its way and go up further. And then, you know, then we can potentially see some short plays coming in later. However, I wouldn't be looking for a short right now. I would more so be on the ball with looking at how the higher time frame is closing and moving, and it looks like we're just picking up some price over here for price to just potentially push up further. We can see that on a few other counter pairs as well, how the US dollar is now related to it. However, main important points that I'm looking at is obviously this point over here now, which is essentially now become the override point, and then I've got my next override point, which is just above here. And I'll be looking at that to just see if price can tap into these points. So these are the two main inflection points. We can see that there's big price between them. There's obviously a little point over here which I'll just mark on, but I won't mark it on as a override. I'll mark it off more so as a inflection point, because the odds are if we are going to make it all the way up here, it's very possible that we can just gravitate a little bit higher and push above and then come back down. So that is just one area that I will be aware of, but because we are weeks away, I'm not going to mark these on until we start gravitating to this area. Then I can start focusing on that. So for now, I'm just going to keep it simple. And with the DXY, I'm just going to be looking at this little bit of price here and just want to see how we are kind of moving towards it. So moving that point over here now, the main point that I'm going to be looking at is over here, but I'm not looking for a short, that's the thing. So I'm kind of looking for more confirmation on a pattern to go to the upside. I'm looking for more confirmation, and once I get that, I can then look for a short position, long position to get higher. But at the moment, it looks like we are getting there in a very messy sort of way. If there was an entry, it would have been within here, and I would have just had to kind of cut through the lines and look at it here and say, you know, this is the sort of price that I would have squeezed in for an entry and then got involved here. So that is for the price to kind of go higher, and I think now we're going to start gravitating and making our way even further. So keep an eye on the DXY pairs, because we could see a lot of US related pairs going bullish, or for example, if you're trading counter pairs, they could be going bearish. So keep a very keen eye on that, and we should see Euro USD short as well coming into play. So that's basically it for the DXY. Now we'll just move into the watch list. So start. Euro Aussie is looking really nice. So what I do like about this is that despite the fact that on the high time frame it does look fairly messy, and then we did come out of this sort of pattern and then we separated into a whole new pattern which kind of just got a little bit more messy. We've kind of come into this trend line and kind of head and shouldered. Now, even though we're not coming from a very high value area point and we are kind of in the middle of anywhere, we still have to remain neutral and understand that price can gravitate to this low and then start pushing up higher, because looking on the weekly time frame we are somewhat in that bull momentum. However, we still have this sort of area that we could potentially fill. So looking at this as a high value area point and where price is here, an A to B movement to here would be phenomenal. So is price just stalling over here to create enough pressure to push down aggressively? That's what I'm kind of evaluating and have been evaluating for some time now. So what I'm seeing here is we've had a nice little rejection and there's a possibility for this. However, if we remove that for a second and we just look at, you know, sort of variations of what else could be happening, we could see something like this happen, and then we get a larger flag kind of form, we kind of feel this and then drop off. So I would keep that in mind, but for the most recent possibility for a good trade, this is basically on the table. It can essentially just drop off from here as well, because there is more than enough in here for this to sell at the moment. However, if I was to take an entry for a short position, I think a phenomenal movement to this low as a first point of interest, and then if we get there and we go further, that's even more phenomenal. So let me just quickly mark on a risk reward and we can kind of just see what that will shape up to. So in terms of an entry, I would be looking at maybe a position in this area here. I may be able to squeeze in a tighter stop loss or not, but I'll go with the scenario where I'd probably go up to about 30. And then looking at it coming to this low, there's probably an 8% to that low. And then if we push even further down, we could potentially see it come down to roughly, well, a 40% position. And then if it does kind of complete and go to its full extent, we could be looking at something like a 60% position on the table, especially by pricing ourselves strategically in this area. That's phenomenal. If we can get inside that sort of 1, 2, 3 up here that we were looking at, you know, that would give us probably an additional 15%. So we're probably looking at something in the region of 70, 80%, so 70%, yeah. Still phenomenal. So like I said, positioning is very, very important, and like I said, this would be a longer term trade. It wouldn't essentially come down so quick. You'd be in this position for some time, so bear in mind that you'd be paying swaps, and you'd also be involved strategically based on management, so larger flags forming and so forth. So being more realistic, you probably won't be holding this position all the way down. You'd be scaling, you'd be adding into your position and so forth, but you can definitely ride the wave. You just have to be on your management game and just understand that there would be some inflection points where price can get a little bit more volatile, some news and so forth. So there's a lot of variations of things you have to keep your eye on, but that's basically my gameplay for EA, and I think EA is going to be a phenomenal position if we can. The next one I'm going to be looking at is GA. Now, what I really do like about GA is that we've basically come into this sort of squeeze, and we have that possibility for one more push lower. If we can get that push lower, either tap into this mini double bottom or even make it to this low, which kind of completes us with a 1, 2, 3, that's something that I'm more so interested in seeing, because then we can potentially see that to go long eventually. So that's basically how I'm looking at it. But at this moment in time, we are moving over here. So this is why the override is a little bit more appealing to me if we do kind of push lower, because then we kind of just force it, pit a bottom here, and then we pull back higher, and then we call that the low, because this is just a sort of inflection point over here. Nothing of major significance, just an inflection point, but price has correctively been squeezing lower. This could be creating just more of a squeeze for it to go lower, and then we get that push, and then we kind of go up. And that's basically what I'm looking for. Now, this one could take a lot more time to develop, and we will need aggressive shorts on the GBP pairs, where at the moment, you know, it is very, very possible from what we're seeing on the charts. However, it just needs to be kind of sharp and alert and just see how price develops. But looking at this possibility, I think this will be a phenomenal entry as well, just to go long. So definitely going to be keeping my eye on this one for next week. If it shapes up, it shapes up. It's very possible that it could be a late week, if not a next week trade after, but you know, it's definitely one to keep monitoring, stay in sync with this pair, and then when the setup does come along, you can take full advantage of it. So yeah, that's basically the outlook for. The next one I'm going to be looking at is GBP CAD. So the one thing I do like about GBP CAD is that we have this floor over here, and then we've kind of tapped in time and time again, but now we're just filling that sort of gap. What's really nice about this is that even though we're filling this gap, we've come down so aggressively that I believe that we're going to be catching up people on the complete wrong side of the market now. So This is going to be prime time for us to really keep an eye on this. Can it drop off aggressively? Absolutely. I think this pair has the potential to just really catch people out, come low, and then just pull its way back up. And that's kind of what I'm counting on at this point. I'm looking for some sort of, you know, signal from the market that there's going to be an entry available, but I'm not going to be counting on anything like this, to be honest, to really set it in stone. I just think this is a possibility that, you know, it's worth keeping your eye on, sort of just a bit of price, what could potentially happen, where could it go from. And something like this is a little bit more, you know, parallel in my opinion. That could be more of a possibility. If something like this shaped up, I wouldn't be surprised. So, you know, I definitely keep my eye on, you know, a bit of price like this and just see how it shapes up, because once we get that push lower, we just need to wait for that push back up, and then we're going to be getting involved. So that's basically my gameplay. I think this is more so the entry I'll be looking for. I won't be getting an entry anywhere exactly here. I'm just drawing this on for reference. This is an unconfirmed bottom, but I'll be looking for that push down, push back up, and then I'll be looking to go interested for that long. So that's basically my gameplay for this. Nothing more than just, you know, waiting for that push down, push up. So GBP CAD is going to be really nice. Just need it to really, you know, just reveal itself before I take that. And the next one I'm looking at is GBP Yen. So GBP Yen, been looking at this for a couple weeks. You know, I've been waiting for this completion. I think the more it stalls over here, the more it kind of just builds that confidence that we can kind of just drop off. But I'm still going to stay strong with the analysis until this low is really broken. Then, you know, nothing really changes. We're still sitting in this price. I'm waiting for price to gravitate higher. If we can tap into that and then we sell off, that's going to be phenomenal. I think it's just one that I'm going to keep monitoring until it comes towards the end of the month, and then the trade might shape up. It is what it is. But I'm just waiting for some sort of aggressive push up and then a push down, and basically that would give me my sort of entry that I'm looking for. So that would be a phenomenal A to B movement in my opinion. I think even with the risk reward in place, if I was able to take in a call it probably a little bit less, but let's just say we get a bit of a more refined entry in there as well, 23 pips, you know, to that low, it's phenomenal. You know, you're looking at 60 odd % if that does play through. So, you know, there's a small gap there which kind of gives me an indication that we could fill, but like I said, we will have to wait and see. But GBP Yen is definitely one of the most favorited pairs for me at the moment. So this setup is prime. I just want to wait for it to kind of you know, come through, and then when it's there, it's there. So that's basically my setup for GBP Yen. Just have a quick look on the higher time frame. We can see that, you know, we are in this sort of expanding. So when we do get to this low, we can eventually be looking to potentially go long again. But at the moment, we're squeezing, we're in this larger correction. Look at all this price, you know, all of this. We need to fill that, come back down, and then pull back up. So just give it some time to materialize, but I think when it's there, and it's going to be a phenomenal entry. So yeah, that's basically my gameplay for GB. The next one is CAD Yen. So CAD Yen slightly different. CAD Yen, I'm actually looking for price in two areas. So obviously I don't really have that majorly structured approach that that typically I would ideally want to be kind of looking for, but at the moment it could be developing. So what I'm looking for is essentially something like this. If price can sort of, you know, maybe just correct here and come up here and then we sell off, that's probably a very nice entry in itself. However, I understand that there's a possibility that we can extend, tap in here and then sell. So it's basically two areas of gameplay for me. I either take the entry from up here or I take the entry from in here. And that's basically what I'm actually looking for. So nice and simple, to be honest. Nothing of major concern. If another structure forms within there and it evolves, it is what it is. I'll just have to reevaluate when the time comes. But I think this, once again, for a GBP pair, if I go onto the higher time frame, you can see that phenomenal movement, and we're moving from a decent sort of area of value. So with that aggression that we're currently seeing in the market, I think if we mark on this as the low and we take a position for the short and we put in a position over here somewhere, remember, even higher is even better, and you know, I'm probably looking for anything between 10 to 30 pips. You know, even there could be something in the region. I mean, that's at the most extent, you know, if we can squeeze in a 12%, it's 80% position on the table from up here. You know, we could be looking at somewhere in the region of maybe 105, 106, 100% there. You know, obviously, you know, that's just to this inflection point low, but we definitely will be looking at this as the price target. So there's a 50% position on the table there. It's phenomenal. Honestly, it's absolutely phenomenal if you can get priced in here strategically and make that capital. So that's my gameplay for CAD next week. I'll have to definitely wait and be extra patient with this one, but I think it's going to be a phenomenal instrument to be trading. Just have to give it some time to materialize, and then imagine the scaling opportunity that will come with it. But looking at how the aggressive shorts are in the market, I definitely want to be getting on the short side of the market. So you have to be sharp, you have to be ready, and then when this is there, it's there. As we can see, we have a mini gap, and then we gapped again, which is indicating that sort of, you know, 1, 2, 3 setup. And then if we get that early next week or mid next week, it's even better, and then we can get that short. And then if we do fill this gap up here, that's even better in my opinion. We can just, you know, get a better price. But that's basically my gameplay for CAD. Then we have Euro Yen, which as well I think is phenomenal. So I did kind of see a setup on it that I was kind of possibly going to entertain, but then I didn't entertain it because it was just towards the end of Friday, and I thought, you know, what is the point really? So we have this set up for the 1, 2, 3, which we've definitely been eyeing up, and if you haven't, you should be, where we can potentially see that price is going to gravitate back to this high. Now we are coming into this high value area here as well. Now this is the true area of sale that I'm looking for, but it's a very strong possibility that we can short from here as well. So if I go to the daily, which is even better, we can see that there's a massive opportunity on the table right now. So we've had this sort of push up, we've had this squeeze lower, and now we're aggressively going to be making our way back up. Are we going to make our way back up right now, or are we going to make it up soon? We can't tell for sure, because obviously, you know, we're not trading gurus like that, but we can see that obviously price, what it's doing is it's tapped into this low, which is really nice, creating the second bottom of this ascending. And we didn't quite tap it into it, but we don't have to at that point. We've then created this sort of parallel channel to the upside. So what we're kind of seeing now is this expanding pattern where price is now expanded, and then we've come in over here, pushed down 1, 2, 3, we filled that, and we've retraced. Now what I did look at was there's a possibility for an entry here. So if price can come back down here, I could possibly get that 1 hour retrace that I would have missed anyway, and I could probably slip in around about a 50 pip stop loss. It is a bit of a long-term position, don't get me wrong, but this could go up in a matter of maybe 2 weeks, so maybe even a week. So that's the sort of entry that I'm kind of willing to entertain, because I'll be more than happy to take this entry here and then mitigate the risk quite large, to be honest, 50 pips. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, I'll be in a very good bull run, and then I can protect myself, and that's a 20% position. So in terms of risk reward and protection, I'm quite happy with that sort of position. So that's one I'll be looking at. But I have a very good feeling, and I've seen it time and time again, that when the market opens, we're just going to start moving aggressively up, or what we might see is a gap and we drop off low, and then that gives me the entry and I'll buy it, and then we'll just go. It is what it is. So I will try be awake for market open just to see if there's any gapping, because if we do get that gap drop off, EJ might be the first one that I just open a position on the gap over here, and then I kind of protect myself over there. So add a little bit more on, maybe not too much, but I could mitigate risk. Probably just put about 45 pip stop loss there, just kind of cover that low, and then yeah, that's it really. So we'll see that how it is. Could I possibly put in less? Can I put in, 10 pips or whatever? Yeah, absolutely. You could definitely do this. It's not really so much confirmed for me, so it's not really the best entry in my opinion, but it's a possibility. I mean, the odds are price can just do a few things. So price can actually just come in a bit lower and do this, and then we do that, and then we go. So just for those reasons, I kind of wanted to opt out of kind of just a tight stop loss. But I think there's a strong possibility that if it does tap into this bit over here, you can protect yourself below that low, and you could potentially go long and get into a very good position. So bear that in mind. However, we are still in somewhat of a downtrend, so it does hold a bit more risk, because we haven't really got enough to say that we are fully going long at the moment. But I think with high time frames and with how price is, until we've broken this high, we can then say, okay, well, you know, trend is now changing and we are moving up aggressively to this point, to that point, and then even further. So keep your eye on EJ because it's going to be a phenomenal trade. Moving on to the wildcards, so USD Yen, very simple, easy one for me. If I go back to the weekly, we can see that there's been phenomenal structure moving to this low. We haven't quite made it yet, but what we can see is we've had structure into structure into structure into structure, which is phenomenal. Coming into the 4 hour, what we can see is that we are leading up into this inflection point now, which would be in line with this flag to the downside. Now, could this be the flag that moves us aggressively to the short? It's very much possible because of the momentum we're building. So what I'm seeing right now is if price can come in over here and tap into this inflection point and then perhaps retrace, or yeah, perhaps retrace from this point, bearing in mind that we can kind of just go off from there as well. We kind of just come up, we fill this sort of 1, 2, 3 zone here, which I guess if you draw it on here, it's a little bit more easier to interpret. We fill that, and then if we come in here and we get this retrace, then I could potentially be looking for a short position in here, and then with that short position, 30 pips, let's say, more than enough, I could take that to the low, and then to the low I could be running a 17% position, and that could aggressively short. So for that pure reason, I think it's a strong possibility. However, given how the DXY has been and where it's coming from, we could still get that bullish momentum, and it could be very much possible, if not probable, that price could just aggressively push further. Hence the reason why a push down and a flag would be a little bit more preferred. But if we do get a retrace, it's worth opting in for in the right area. If we come back up here, tap into this and then sell off, that's even better. But then there's this possibility of the larger flag over here, which I think is more probable as well. If we kind of just push up here and we just go up here, then this is possible. And then if it just continues, you know, then we know what's actually happening. The DXY is in its larger correction, hence the reason why there's a lot of build momentum in the US dollar yen. And then perhaps we can say, let's just stay away from the market if we're looking for that short, or if you want to go in long, it's up to you. It's optional because you can see it happening on the DXY. But I'm personally in preference for the short. If the short play doesn't come in over here, then I'll be evaluating point 1, point 2, and point 3. And then if it does go more aggressively up here, you know, I'd give it a little bit more time because, you know, it needs time to just develop something to kind of give me an indication. But more so, structure is king, so I'll just be waiting for that. But UJ is Euro US dollar, pretty much same kind of setup. You know, like I said with UJ, if we get that sell momentum, which is possible, and we see that with the DXY, it sells off, then that kind of gives us enough momentum to get to that low, which will be aggressive. And then hopefully with Euro US dollar, we can get enough aggressive momentum to go up, complete the 1, 2, 3, and then short. So this gameplay I think is phenomenal if I can catch it. We've tapped into this inflection point, we've aggressively pushed off, we've broken below this line in the sand, we came up, we pushed up, we aggressively pushed low, we're coming in line with a potential aggressive expanding just below the low, more of a wedge, and then kind of coming into that override. We didn't quite fill it, we don't need to, but it's possible that we can gravitate back higher, tap into that override, and then sell off. And if we can do that, I'll be looking for an entry in there. And then for a simple movement over here, if I can catch this short, let's say that I protect myself 20 odd pips, 19, 15% position just to that low there. And then if we can aggressively push lower, then we could be looking at a 30% position. So, you know, in itself, a small position like that can become something phenomenal. And we are coming from an inflection point, so we have to understand that it doesn't hold as much weight as some of the significant highs. However, with the momentum we're seeing and the structures forming, it's a good area to be entering the market. But we have to understand that it's possible that price can still gravitate higher and the DXY can sell off. So if you are taking a trade on USD, just be extra mindful that, you know, it does hold a little bit weight of risk because we're not coming from a very high significant area, but it's in line with the DXY correction pullback. So it kind of works in our favor, but we just have to understand this. Next one is Aussie US dollar, same situation as Euro US dollar, which is phenomenal. The only difference is we did tap into this low and then we did push up. However, when we pushed up very correctively in structure, and now we are forming this sort of structure here, which is in terms of continuation. What I do like about it is that we kind of have this sort of trend line, 1, 2, 3 squeeze in there. which essentially I'm not going to be bothered with drawing in the bottom of it, but I'll take in this line and I'll just keep it a little bit more parallel. And let's just say that, you know, we squeeze it in from here and we look at it like this. Okay, fine. So that's the squeeze. If we can tap into this structure and this structure taps into this high, there could be a very, very nice trade there. Hence the reason why I'm in favor for this pattern over here, where we could have a 1, 2, 3 leading up into this trend line. And then as we correctively approach it, we can get that short in play just to this low as well as a first point. And I think if I just put that on there and I just mark it on, maybe call it about 15 pips is more than enough as well. You could put a little bit more to be extra safe. And then, yeah, 6% to that low, which is phenomenal, you know. And even if looking at how the higher time frame is, especially with a lot of these Aussie pairs, we could get an aggressive short and we could be coming down into a potential of a 24% position, you know, with room for it to complete even further. So just bear in mind that some of these positions, even though they're very, very, you know, they don't look like they're the highest of probability of trades, they can be phenomenal positions. I think it's a very good time in the market for us to be positioning ourselves on a lot of these pairs, especially with the way the DXY is moving. It'll be very, very good for us. So as I said before, if we can see that momentum happening, then, you know, we might see these counter pairs moving up, and then DXY sells off a little bit, which makes the US dollar sell. We get the Euro USD entry once the US dollar sell is done, and perhaps maybe we can go counter. You know, it's going to be really, really nice to be trading next week because they're all going to be working in sequence. So as you're getting out of one position, we might be getting into another. It's that sort of situation. So like I said, that's pretty much it for Aussie US dollar, but I think it's... Then I've got USD CAD. Now USD CAD is one that I'm just waiting for something very simple on this, okay? If I go to the daily, we can see that we've just kind of tapped into this low, we pushed up, then we correctively started making our way back down. I'm waiting for price to come back down here in a form of structure, 1, 2, 3. As we can come in over here, I'll be looking to go long. That's literally as simple as it is. Don't really need to look at anything else. You can look on the weekly, see where price is. It doesn't really do much justice. The daily just kind of paints the picture for you. We've had a double bottom over here, and then we're basically now looking to get that structured approach. If we get that, it's going to be phenomenal. If we just kind of correct and just squeeze and push up higher, it is what it is. But once again, US dollar pair looking like we're going to get that short momentum in the market. We could be positioning ourselves really well. So when I say filtering through the pairs and kind of deciding on what you're going to be getting involved in and how you're going to enter them, it might be a time where a lot of these pairs start shaping up at the same time. So if you're not prepared for that, you may not be able to capitalize, or you might take too many entries at the wrong time and then kind of just miss the real opportunity. So the best thing I can say is be extra patient, because once it's confirmed and it rejects, you're going to get a much better entry at that point. So even if you don't catch it down here, that's not a problem. You can always catch it in here, in here, in here, and so forth. So don't FOMO and get involved in it. And as you've seen in my previous videos, we've noticed that not always the best risk reward is down here as well. You know, from over here to over here, you might look at something like, let's say 12%. But then if you catch an entry in here, which is a little bit more refined and better, from this point to this point, you could be looking at something like 40%. So always think about, you know, protection first, but then at the same time, you should always be thinking about, you know, what holds more risk, because really and truly there's more risk trying to get involved over here because you're catching a falling knife the majority of the time. So bear that in mind. But we are getting a nice little scoop. We're getting this little structure over here. So USD, EuroCAD, same situation. I just don't know yet if this is one that I'm just going to take off my watch list. I'll probably evaluate it a little bit further, but just because we kind of tapped into this inflection point, it does look like we're getting some pretty decent rejection here at the moment. I just want to see how we react to this low. I think it's going to be aggressive. I think we're just going to keep pushing through. So I'm very neutral on it, but there'll be an entry either way. If we can push low, create a flag and continue, great. If we kind of push low, pull back up, create a flag and we go up, it is what it is. I'll be looking both ways for an entry, but more so for the short, but the possibility of the long is there. So staying neutral with this, you know, just want to see how it pans out. I think it's a phenomenal trade to be looking at. So yeah, for that reason, I've just kept it there, but the probability of this coming all the way down there is not so high in my opinion. I think, you know, there's more than enough momentum now for us to kind of push further, but I think we might just get some short momentum, maybe to this low over here, find a bottom and then come back up, or maybe even just create some sort of structure. I don't know what it is, but it's just one that I think I have a good feeling about it. I think there's going to be some good momentum in the market for the short, so it's just worth keeping an eye on it. But I probably really and truly probably won't be taking an entry on it because there's no structure, but it's coming from a very good value area. There's really no reason not to be looking at this at the moment, so for that reason I just kind of get it on board. But like I said, I might easily just swap it off for something else. So for that reason, it's just, you know, it's one of them. And the next one is Aussie Swiss. So Aussie Swiss is basically one I haven't really had on watch for quite some time. You know, it's actually a decent trading pair. It's not one I've had on pair. So it's kind of just looking a lot like a few of my other pairs. We've had this sort of 1, 2, 3. We've got the hover. I've had it on board for a while now. I was looking for this, so I'm looking for that kind of squeeze and then that push back up here for the short, understanding that there's a potential for it to just kind of tap into an override here and short from there, but that's basically the gameplay. So do we kind of just correctively squeeze here and then aggressively push up? I'm not looking for the long, I'm looking for the short, so I'll wait for it to kind of come up and then we'll go for the short. If it sells off, it sells off. It is what it is. Perhaps maybe I'll just have to look for a refined entry somewhere within the rundown, but it's looking phenomenal, honestly. And I think what I've seen previously with a lot of these Aussie pairs is they really present you with really nice structures. Just need to understand and know when and where you want to be getting involved, especially the Aussie US dollar. Beautiful. So that basically summarizes my trades for this week. So essentially what I do now is I just basically take it all and I put it onto my Notion. So you'll usually see it in the description of my videos from Monday to Friday. I do this every day for the ones that I'll be watching as well. However, I don't really share those ones every day because it's just, you know, it's a little bit much to be just sharing everything all the time. But by all means, if you want to see one or you want me to share it with you, you can always drop me a message. I'm more than happy to do that. Even so though, I usually put the weekly forecast in there and then you can see how the week develops from the forecast and why it's important to be doing that, because it holds grave importance by getting yourself mentally prepared for each and every week and getting yourself, you know, ready for anything. So, but yeah, so essentially that's kind of just my week ahead. So yeah, catch you next week. So have a good weekend, and yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button if you did enjoy this video, if you're looking out for more content, and yeah, catch you in the next